Rigsters here, back with another Forza Horizon 5 video. This time I will be taking the 1993 Jaguar XJ220 TWR for a spin on the Marathon stock and upgraded. So what I'm going to do is set up the event and go from there. Now the Jaguar XJ220S TWR, I'm just going to call it XJ220 TWR. The difference between this one and the XJ220 is the TWR was an endurance racer in the early to mid 90s, piloted by a variety of different drivers to win the Le Mans. They had one of their victories confusingly misinterpretation of the rules caused them to lose one of their awards, or at least have an asterisk next to their award because of a catalytic converter confusion rule, where the Jaguar got confused or misinterpreted the rules stating of, like, should their race cars have to have catalytic converters, which up to the 90s, not all race cars were required to have catalytic converters for race disciplines, and some teams may have gotten away or tried to, put them in races that you were supposed to and then quietly remove them when they weren't. Apparently, this is what put the end to the whole confusion of the catalytic converters on or off, yes or no. The reason being that for racing, in some cases, it actually can reduce a little bit of power, but enough that it would cause them to lose an advantage that they perceived they could have by doing the risk in the first place. It is a very weird history, but this car in particular I love looking at. And I'll get started here. And the reason why I'm doing this stock is because I want to see what I really need to improve on this twin-turbo V6 powered mid-engine supercar. This car, like the name implies, had a theoretical top speed of 220 miles an hour. That's where the 220 of the name comes through. So far in Forza Horizon 5, stock seems to be doing actually pretty good. Some cars stock, believe it or not, actually handle very good. The problem is if you're used to better brakes, like I do, the very first thing I do with most cars is I put better brakes on to start with. And also better rubber, of course, because some cars from some particular eras have really bad rubber. This is not one of them. It's clear to me. And sometimes that actually is not necessarily a bad thing. And the reason why I like using the Street Marathon is it tests your suspension for low speed and high speed handling. And it's short. Within reason short. It's just long enough so you can get a feel for the car and also, to earn money while doing it. Now the brakes do lock up a lot more often because they're not upgraded, so I don't have as much efficiency at dissipating the heat. Just need to carefully tap the brakes and slide her in there like that. Now if you're new to this kind of videos or content, well, not necessarily the game itself, but how I do it is I don't use traction control, I don't use stability control, I only use ABS, and that's it. There's no best racing line, no braking line. Now, there are cars in real life and in the game that actually do have traction control. Sometimes I will experiment with that, although lately I have not bothered to turn the traction control back on, partly because of creator laziness. I realized that for the kind of content I'm doing lately with this particular game series, it may be better to actually have it on, especially if the car actually historically were equipped with it. I'm not certain this car actually had traction control though. Could not really find much info about that. but I'm presuming it did have ABS still, because usually by the 90s, not all, but a lot of race series were starting to introduce that technology in certain disciplines. And the shift times definitely are clunkier, as you can tell by the RPM in digital formatting. I'm so used to the transmission instantly responding. It's very rare that I actually do a totally stock supercar, or a race car for that matter. And this is what the interior looks like. Oops. Gears are very long, which makes sense because, you know, this was an endurance racer to go in Le Mans and other touring series. And this is what it looks like without a wheel in the way. I kind of like the gauges, you know? It brings that 90s vibes back. Almost 200 miles an hour there. 186 is what I could briefly see, so I don't go crashing into oblivion. I don't usually... For some reason, I don't usually win, per se. I mean, granted, it's against bots, so I really could care less if I always win or not. It's just the goal is to have fun and just blab about cars. That's what I like doing. In this game in particular, for sure. Now I have to do massive braking. This corner catches me out half the time. Oh. And it also would help if you don't slam into reverse gear rigs. Come on. Alright, so that was a screw up there. I'm very used to lightning fast transmission gear changes because of the upgrades you can do. This is definitely out of my comfort zone, which was intended because I wanted to try a different approach to at least Forza Horizon 5 in particular. Just to try something a little different. Not always doing the same pre-tuned or same way of doing things. I do like this race because it says within reason short, and you get to see the car at high and low speeds. I think this car only has 5 speeds. Maybe it has 6? I don't know. A lot of cars from the 90s had a weird 5 or 6 speed setup. 6 speeds is more common today, or more gears actually, for that matter. But in the 90s, 5 speeds was still very common. Even in sports cars, or supercars in this case. Very long gears, in fact. So it's slowing down for these turns again. The top speed of this car is definitely... Whoa! Oh, that's a pile-up I can take advantage of. And it's great we do so. I love it when the bots do that, though. That is just awesome. When they do that screw-up where they get stuck behind traffic like that for no reason whatsoever. Allowed me to go back into the top 5, which is good. Normally you don't want to shift in mid-corner. It is a little bit unrealistic. I mean, you can do it under certain circumstances, but that really upsets the balance of the car. That's why you usually see in real-life racing or footage, you don't usually see the drivers changing gears mid-corner under most circumstances. You usually do that before or after go in and out of the turns if you want to do it more realistically. Well, not necessarily just more realistically, it's actually better for you as well. So it's all a matter of getting the balance of the car right. This car stock is actually not bad, even though the brakes and the transmission gear change is slower than I'd like because it's stock, but it's actually very usable, especially on the longer speeds. It has pretty decent grip. It tends to understeer at higher speeds, but that's okay. scenery, of course, still looks amazing, as it should. I mean, it's latest Horizon edition, so they went all out on the scenery as well. And I'm sure returning users have seen this course plenty of times, but for some, this might be their first time. This game, I find to be superior to 4 in a lot of ways. Just the amount of scenery changes and elevation changes are more common. And of course, the bigger map always helps. Every racer loves a bigger map. And this game still keeps within Force's philosophy of, like, you can do pretty much almost any kind of race you can imagine. And you can do some really funky, weird ones too if you really wanted to. Yeah, I'm not going to catch third. I really feel bad for messing up that one corner I always seem to miss. But that's okay. Let's see what the lap time returned. 9:05. Okay. So an S12 at stock, we're at 8:48. It turned a time of 9:05. The winner did 8:58. That's pretty quick. So I'm gonna try to keep this in S1 and give it another shot. And we're now back into the garage here. So I'm gonna keep it within S1. The brakes desperately need upgraded. Springs, I could probably... Oh, it already has race springs. The reason I could tell that is because it only has rally or drift. So by default, it already has race springs. So let's improve the clutch by making that faster. Stock speed was 5, so I guess we'll add an extra gear. Or, no, you know what? I'm just going to do sport transmission because I want to keep the stock gear ratios. Driveline we upgrade to reduce weight. And of course, now with differential, I did do some testing with other cars over the past couple of weeks, or at least past 4 weeks ago. I tested what the difference between all the ones that aren't sport diff, like the race diff, off-road, drift, and rally. There is actual differences even if you set the tunings for the same or similar percentages. So the old adage, at least in this game, is if you want to do race diff. If you do rally, and so on. That still is true. Rubber, let's see if we can increase that. Street, sport. Usually I prefer semi-slick. That's going to get kind of real close to no opportunity for more power. So let's see here. What's the stock tire compound? 120, really? That's interesting. So, 120, huh? That doesn't make any sense. Well, let's do sport. 110, but that says it grips better. And if I do semi-slicks, what does that go to? 130, 147. That is really strange. So what is this stock tire compound? So, I did not know about this. And Slick, of course, puts me at the maximum budget. So maybe as an experiment, we'll do sport tire compound. So at least get a little more traction. And increase the track width by 1 for the rear and 1 for the front to distribute that better. And let's increase the power. Let's get the exhaust opened up here. So we go from 680, 526... 692, 536. Okay. Let's just do the pistons as well. That reduces weight by, let's see here. Yeah, 3 pounds. It goes from 2,306 to 2,303. That's a good trade-off. Let's do better fuel system. And ignition. Those are usually pretty explanatory. Let's see the camshafts. Can I do more camshaft? Yes, I can. Let's do that. And flywheel, let's decrease the weight by 1 pound. Yes, 1 pound? Yeah, a whole 1 pound. Oh my goodness. There's the ugly Forza bumper. I don't like that. The default bumper is fine. This is not adjust. Wait, this is adjustable. Wait. Huh? That says it's adjustable, but then the Forza one adds a gunnery flap. On the top here, see this little black thing, if I could get a better angle of the spoiler. It's a little lip that's just above this wing here. It's really hard to see here. I'll try to get a better shot right here. See, the little flap is right here, and then this is the stock. Upgrade. Huh. We'll just keep it stock. Is there any weird conversions you can do with this car? Oh, you can put a V12 in here, but I'm not doing that. And of course you can convert to all-wheel drive. That's not a shocker there. Alright. Maybe you can increase displacement. Get some more power out of that. Plus 19 and raise the rev limiters a little bit. 796, 587. Okay, can I add twin turbo? Oh. Oh my, that's going to make it an uncontrollable mess. But no. Could. But let's see if I can add stickier tires first before I just keep slapping more power down. Actually, you know what? Let's increase the tire width while we're at it. So let's do 275s to the front and 355s in the rear. Now add a little weight, but that should help with cornering. Let's do that. Now with tire rim size adds weight. No, I don't like increasing rim size here. Now let's actually increase the tire compound. Let's see here, semi-slicks, do that. Yeah, it doesn't seem like that's a good idea. So we'll just keep it like that in this install. It costs us $37,750. And we lose... Wait, is there a weight reduction? Oh shoot. I forgot about the weight reduction. No, there's no weight reduction option. That's strange. That's like one of the first cars I've seen that you can't do that. Alright, so we'll just go and install. Go from 848 to 887. Almost 100. Yes, 100. 115. Yes, 700. Yep, 115 more horsepower. And go from 2,379 to 2,310. That's good. Alright, so let's go to custom tuning real quick here. The tires, I'm going to keep like this. Gear ratio, I am going to increase slightly to 290. No, actually, let's go 295. See what that does. Oh, I can actually get more speed? Sure, let's do 3 gears. Let's try 310. Alright, so 305 it is then. I'm looking at the top speed thing, so we gained a little more acceleration theoretically to go to a potential of 239. That's good. Not going to mess with alignment. Roll bars are fine. Height. No, don't really want to mess with the height. It's pretty low to the ground. Now this arrow. I'm going to keep that stock. Differential, well, they kept it here, so I'm going to keep most of these stock outside of adjusting that. And I'll see you at the same race I did the first time in stock. Alright, and we're back to the street marathon. Let's get started. So the goal to beat is 9 minutes and 10 seconds. Let's see if we can do a faster time here, which I'm pretty sure I can. Yeah, now it sounds better. Of course, it being upgraded, I do expect a faster return on time for this course. Even with traffic being traffic like that. Of course, slapping more new parts does change the handling a little bit. Because now we're making even more power. And the reason why I went with sport transmission instead of being able to do the full gear ratio tuning is occasionally you can actually save points for other components, and sometimes all you just need is the final drive. You don't necessarily always need to add more gears. to make it more competitive. The downside is the gear ratios can't be individually tweaked, so you can miss out on some extra acceleration in the lower gears. So that is a trade-off. And for some cars, you do want to add more gears. Like cars that have less than 4 gears, there are some that do that. May be prudent to at least do a sport transmission at the minimum, or more. It is a little twitchy at lower speeds, which is to be expected with this much extra power. This also marks one of the few times I've actually tried to make a competitive car without semi-slicks. Most of the time I will put on semi-slicks, which is, in my opinion, the best compromise of grip on the roads. Race slicks are really nice and dandy, but they do absolutely terrible if you hit a pebble or in the rain. It doesn't seem to gush out the water as well, so you have potentially less grip in bad weather. I like my cars to be able to be driven in bad weather. So, slicks have their uses though. For some races and situations, they are faster, but to be consistently faster in them, they have to heat up, and so on and so forth. That's how those work, at least in real life. In the game, it kind of emulates that to a reasonable degree, but it's not like iRacing kind of realism, where they really model that stuff down to the T. That's the difference. This game does a very reasonable job of doing that. It used to be worse. In the previous version, in Horizon 4, you always had to do very odd suspension and tire setups to get maximum grip. And the handling model was worse, too. It definitely, some cars you could tell were not gripping the way they should, because of the physics engine needed an overhaul. And they've done a very commendable job of striking that balance and making it more realistic without compromising on the fun, in my opinion. Some will say it is an improvement, but it could be further refined, which is also a reasonable statement. I just personally think that this is so vastly better compared to the previous version that I never want to play version 4 unless I really wanted to experience that again, which I kind of don't. Not to say it's bad though, but if you have this game, there's no point in playing the older game unless you have friends that have that, or you just wanted to do something different. That is also fine as well. As for the race right now, I'm going pretty fast here. Oh, I'm not going to get caught up by this corner again. Ah, there we go. I refuse to get caught up by the corner twice in the same car at least. It's very easy to miss that turn. And as for the part upgrades, I think it's actually not bad. As long as you keep the car within no higher than 2 classes of where it started, they usually will drive pretty reasonably well. Now if you do 1 class above, some cars just absolutely are monstrous to drive, even if you're more familiar with racing games. I've built some really dumb cars in this game off camera that are an absolute nightmare to drive, but they are really fast in a straight line. You can do stuff like that in this game, and that's why I applaud games that allow you to do that. Just to do stupid fun stuff, even if they're not competitive. And that is another bot in a Mustang as well. I'm trying to go faster here. I definitely can hit 230. Need more runway to hit 240 though. Oh. Yeah, I ran out of grip, so I understeered at high speed. So it still has a lot of understeer at high speed. Not always ideal. I mean, it's a safe thing, but it's not always a good thing. At least it's not a train wreck to drive. gonna see if I can try to get into the top 5 again. The bots didn't screw up this time. But it is harder, because the car is at a higher performance index, so I'm facing off against better S1 cars. So I'm trying to concentrate, trying to get better performance out of it. Now, one of the things in racing that I should mention, not sure I've mentioned it very often, if at all, but at least in racing, sometimes it's better to brake early than to brake late, depending on the circumstance. Like some of those corners back there, I broke earlier, so I could potentially turn in better. And for some turns, that actually is a good thing to do. And as you can see, I subtly tapped the brake there. Sometimes you want to do what's called a little tail brake. You'll have to be really careful how you do it though, because if you tap it too hard, you can cause it to lock up instead of turn in better. That is a technique that takes practice, doesn't always work, and is very situational. However, it is very handy. And since this is just a sprint race, you don't have to worry about conserving the brakes. In real life, you want to be even more careful doing tail braking like that, because you can definitely wear out the brakes doing that long turn. So it's not a one-size-fits-all tactic you can do. See if I can even beat the lap time. It's 9:05 or 9:10 had to beat. I am catching up to 3rd place. Maybe I can get into top 3. Come on. Oh, he tried to force me out, but I was too smart for that. Just got right back on it. Oh, man. That was not scripted, by the way. None of that was scripted, of course. 8:27. That was also dumb luck right there. I did not expect that to happen, of a bot hitting the bot. That was bot on bot action there. Alright, 8:27. So we went from 9:05 to 8:27. So that is a decrease, which is good in this case, of, that is 37 seconds, 35 to 37 seconds faster around this course. Yeah, there you go, get on the pedestal. Gained that money and rep. Let's see if we get on the wheel spin. Oh no! One of my subscribers is gonna scream bloody murder. And I just cringed. Not the X6M. Yeah, one of my subscribers that I talk to and hang out with that's really into cars, he's not going to be happy about that. And I'm not either. I don't like the X6M. But that's a story for another time. But I'll just sum it up really briefly. It doesn't look good, and I don't like the design of it. It's very cringe. Alright. So, with that being said, this is the Jaguar XJ220 TWR. And I say it's good. Even stock, this car is very capable on the streets, and with a little light tuning and part configuration, it's very competitive. You may want to switch out some parts here and there if you don't like this kind of setup, but I personally find it to be controllable. It may have to adjust some of the roll bars or springs to make it a little softer to turn in better, but overall recommended. And hope you enjoyed this video. I do run a Ko-Fi page that has the goal of getting a better flight stick to fly in air combat sim games like IL-2 Stormvic or DCS World, just to learn how to fly that better, and also it helps supports the channel, that helps me create more videos to help you. This is Rigsters Journey, signing off.